And welcome to a very special webinar. This is in fact a test session, but we have everybody here. So first of all, I'd like to welcome our very special guest, Alex Collier. Good afternoon, Alex. This is
Good afternoon, James. James and JP, how are you?
James
Okay.
has to unmute himself as well to make himself heard.
Yes,
So
I've unmuted myself.
Since we have a few minutes, let me just share something with you that we're going to talk about. And one of the biblical characters was a young rabbi by the name of Jesus Malathiel. And he was a rabbi, but he was also a militant. Wasn't happy with Rome. And apparently this is the man that Constantine's mother went to find, but they never did find his body, okay? But they had said had been crucified. Well, he never did die, and the way they said, and that's why the Catholic Church, when they did the first testing of the Shroud of Turin, they sabotaged the original testings because they were afraid that the cloth, should it actually be the same person, would show that the man wasn't dead. They were terrified of that because the premise of Christianity is the death and resurrection. Well, according to the A's, this particular Jesus actually fought with the freedom fighters at Masada. And there is a cave that is archaeologists call the Cave of the Bones, Cave of Bones. And in there is the remains of 15, 17, 18 people. Most of them children, some of them middle-aged, and there is one gentleman, one remains of an old man in his 70s. According to the A's, that's the Jesus. Those are his remains. And what isn't shared with us is the fact that when they uncovered that cave, there were scrolls that were found that were written by the same Jesus, which make reference to a family that had fled the Middle East, Judea, that had gone to far-off outer lands of the Roman Empire, didn't mention them by specifics, and makes reference to his wife Mary. And of course, those were all skirted away and are probably in the Vatican archives somewhere. But I wanted to bring that up because, you know, people need a perspective in the event that they decide to go through with the planned staging of the Second Coming. And, you know, the end time scenario, if they intend to play it out, people need to be aware of the fact that the biblical Jesus was in fact a composite character and was just a man, not the son of the creator of the entire galaxy, universe, and all the dimensions thereof. So I'm still working on how I'm going to present that, but I thought I would just share that with you guys. There's a lot of other things to share that have nothing to do with that. But we are, pretty soon, we're going to be at a whole new level of weird on the planet. And that's one of the scenarios, you know, the religious fervor and the building up of this incredible amount of fear so that everyone will surrender themselves, you know, to a savior, either light or dark, as opposed to standing and empowering themselves, you know, to be their true God selves, or as close as possible. So, anyway, any thoughts?
yeah, well, back to the whole biblical thing. I remember you said also once a long time ago that the story of Moses and the Exodus from Egypt and all that stuff is the story of the Chaldeans.
That's
and
correct.
Not the Israelites. And
That's correct. But you know where the
now
name Israel came from? The name Israel came from one of Moses' sons, who changed his name from Joshua to Israel. The Israelites were his people, his tribe. They were actually Chaldean Egyptian. They were not Jews. They were never Jews. And everybody mistakes that now, that all the Jews were the Israelites. That isn't true in history. But, you know, they've clouded history so much by hiding all the records and burning so much of them that almost no one knows what's really happened in the past. You know, and what's really, really interesting is, you know, there are still people that espouse a flat earth. There are still people who say, well, creation's only been here 5,000 years. There's some scientists now that are saying that the mitochondria in the bloodstream only dates humanity at 5,000 years, which of course is absolute absurdity. Just what's going on in Antarctica, the uncovering of parts of Atlantis 3 miles under the ice, you know, that's what they're doing down there. It's nothing more than a huge archaeological dig. But there's almost no information coming out of there. They have pretty much locked it all down. But there are tons and tons of people down there digging, making tunnels. And what they're also doing is they're pulling out any kind of extraterrestrial technology that they can find buried in the ice. You know, they're holding on to all that and moving it out.
This is Stargate Atlantis, isn't it? Essentially.
I've said all along that Stargate was pretty accurate.
Yeah, that's a documentary. So now here's a really important point, which you may or may not want to bring up in your presentation. But I believe that there is a psyop going on right now that is to catch the gullible, and you know, go back to there is a current movement of flat earthers. I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's this he's supposed to be a ex-NASA employee, and he said that he used to retouch all the paintings, all the pictures, which is fair enough. And then he starts going on that you know, that NASA's been lying to us, and it's actually been you know, the Earth is flat and there's a dome. And I tell you, for me, whenever I hear anybody talk about this, I get like, it feels like somebody's putting a great big clamp on my head and tightening it and tightening and tightening it. Do you think that it's part of the alien invasion psyop? Or some people say it's also like a Catholic thing. It's to kind of catch the Catholics in their sort of, they'll believe anything the Pope tells them kind of thing. Well,
that's an interesting thought. JP, you know, the whole point is the dark side, the consortium, whatever you want to call it, the empire, what they would love to do is just to have everybody mentally and spiritually shut down. That would make their job very, very easy. As far as the church, I understand the Pope is supposed to be addressing the UN in 33, 34 days. And there's quite a bit of speculation about what he could say. But, you know, you go back to the work of Santos Bonacci, where he talked about the original trusts that the Vatican created, where they basically declare that they own the earth and every human being and soul on it. You know, they still operate from that premise, you know, that we're their property. And it could be that that's where they're going to go with this. We'll know when we know. But I can assure you the earth isn't flat. I mean, I just laugh when I hear this shit. And I don't even want to, it's just like, oh my God, you know, come on. But okay.
I think it might be worthwhile.
Anyway, so, you know, all you can do is just give the information of what you absolutely know and just release it and let people make up their own minds. You can't convince anybody of anything. But I think that's what they do, you know, just cloud it up so that no one knows what to believe. And what they will do is they will just shut down mentally and detach themselves. And you got to remember something. Energy goes where focus goes. Energy flows where focus goes. And they want to control the flow and the focus. They really do. So you know, like I said, we're gonna be moving into a whole new level of weird here very, very soon.
Oh, good. I do like weird. It's my hometown, just south of Normal.
Well, I hope you're ready for this because it's going to be strange.
Oh, that's all right. No, no, the new weird. Because now we're here at the new normal. We're sort of pushing ahead with the new weird. I tell you what. Well, apart from the fact that my head feels like it's being squeezed into something too small, is that there's an awful lot of swearing. They cuss a lot, these flat earthers, and very much like certain other people, they try to convince by basically bullying and shouting and not being reasonable. So that's but luckily we're not going to have people coming in onto the call, but I'm pretty sure we'll get the one or two questions about that, because that's like one of the current mad memes that's going around, isn't it, James?
That's right.
Well, a lot of people don't respond to that kind of harassment anymore. Most people are pretty done with all that crap. They really are. One of the things about waking people up is that the first thing they do is they decide to make their own decisions. And that's a really good thing. And I think that there's more than enough of us who are in that space. I mean, just evidence here in the United States about how everybody feels about politicians. If any of them were to run again, minus Donald Trump, they probably couldn't get elected dog catcher. So, it's a good thing. It's just that, they have invested 1,000 years in putting this plan together to get us all to surrender our sovereignty and our free will. And that's the plan, and they're not going to stop until they're forced to stop. And we haven't reached that point yet. And that's why things are getting so weird. I mean, there's all these folks talking about, the good guys have won, it's all over. It's not over. It's not over until it's over. And I don't know that we'll know when that point is. I think maybe collectively we will, when all resistance to creating a true expression of joy has ceased, and then all of a sudden joy begins to manifest everywhere. I think at that point, that's when we'll know, that it's game over for the dark side. But we're not there yet. We're definitely not there yet.
Well, I think definitely that's another topic to bring up. That really brought the tears to my eyes when you just said that, because that's the truth. That's totally true. We won't know until the resistance is gone, and it's really strange because there have been times in the last few months and weeks that it does feel like the resistance has certainly dropped. It's like they're starting to lose the ball, but they're still holding it tight. But bits of the ball are falling apart in their hands, it seems.
Well, I'll tell you an interesting thing. A lot of people, and I think other contactees and even abductees have talked about this, about the frequency shield around the Earth to keep us sedated for the most part. Have you heard about that? There's electronic frequency, this fence around the planet.
Yes.
Is
this
where
archonic fence?
Yes. Well, I can tell you that from my experience with Morenae and Vissaeus, when they would come and see me and I would go aboard the ship, if we didn't leave the atmosphere, what they would do is they would sit in that fence and they would freak it out. And they did it on purpose. And I know others are doing the same thing. They will position themselves in the fence and they will, they will cause it to disintegrate in areas and put huge holes in the fence, and so that information gets in and out that's been building here, a kinetic psychic energy. What they'll do is they'll sit inside this fence and they will blow huge holes in it on purpose so that information gets out and information gets back in. This is very similar to what happened to the Procyons when they broke free from the Greys and the older Orion Empire. It was very, very similar to what happened, where enough energy got through that someone picked it up, and what they did was they planted themselves inside that electronic fence, and they started wearing it down with their harmonic, just burning huge holes in it. So information started to get out, and information started coming back in, and it began to elevate consciousness very, very quickly, because we're all symbiotic. The relationship of all of humanity, whether on this planet or others, it's symbiotic. We are all connected to each other. The distance is irrelevant. It's just being able to communicate and understand each other because of our different experiences, our different beliefs, and our different filters that we've all been conditioned to have. Once we get past all that, we're all pretty much the same. So it's really interesting. It's exciting to see the changes, but at the same time, I'm very concerned that so many people are going to get hurt because they don't see this bus coming. The changes, and there's some talk too about the 28th of September where there's supposed to be an ascension. I think someone's putting that stuff out. And my understanding is that's just simply not the case. Most of us aren't even ready. But what is happening is that our solar system will fully begin its descent into the plasma field, the equatorial region of our galaxy. And, let's see if I can do this. Our solar system, as it moves, it goes in this, here we go. It goes up, and it goes down, and it goes up. It travels this way, okay, as we're moving in the galaxy. 26,000 years, 26,000 years, 26,000 years, 26,000 years, okay? Well, what we're doing is we're beginning our descent, okay, to begin a new 26,000-year cycle, and that descent will take us across through the plasma field, which NASA calls the Oort cloud, and that field is a huge electrical plasma field, and it will change our DNA. It will change virtually everything that we know. And what happens is once we cross that actual plane, we move into a different harmonic, a feminine harmonic, where humanity will begin to rebuild itself and regenerate and recreate itself in a safe environment, okay? Because that harmonic, that frequency is not about war. It's about compassion. And we're leaving the male dominant in the northern side of the galaxy. We're leaving the war behind, and those who can't let that energy go, that warrior, that that control, that dominance, a lot of them, whether they're male or female, won't make it. They will check out. And the A's once said that many of the men would have brain aneurysms because they simply would not be able to handle the energy. I think most of the women could adapt, but not all of them will. So we will have 26,000 years of just incredible healing and rebirthing of humanity, before we begin that ascent back up into the male dominant frequencies. But, this has been going on forever, and many civilizations experience this on third, fourth, and fifth density. And that's all that's been expressed to me. I don't know what happens at sixth, other than the fact that I've been told that they don't experience the duality. It is primarily one harmonic, which would be compassion and introspection. Those were the words that were used for sixth density. So, here you go. Those are some of the things we're going to talk about. And you provide incredible service just making the information available. What people do with it is beyond anybody's control. But, the point is to make it available, because if people are asking questions, they will find it, or they will find somebody who would lead them to it. It's amazing how that works, regardless of what it is.
Absolutely. Well, people have been, you know, that's where you've been. You've been putting the information out, and it's been trickling through, and you put a little bit out, and you know, other stuff happens, and it trickles through, and it infuses. And James, I mean, I think you've done a fantastic job of gathering all of the stuff that Alex has kind of littered over the web over the years. Just kind of dropped behind him, and then and you brought it all together into one fantastic site. I mean, I'm really pleased for you, Alex. Like now, what do they call it when they an audience with such and such? So, and it's you speak to people who know you, who are up to speed, who can ask really, really, really good questions.
Oh man, I would love something like that.
Yeah, like a master class.
Because you know, and this is why I enjoy in a live scenario, Q&A.
Yeah.
Because there are times I don't know what I know. In other words, during my conversations with Vissaeus and Morenae, you know, Vissaeus has always been telepathic. Well, Morenae was both. He would speak telepathically at the same time he would use his vocal cords because that's all he knew. And for a while there, I would just focus on the vocal cords, and I would miss the fact that he was also talking in my head. You know, and my brain has all this download from both of them. And sometimes I don't even know that I know something unless the question comes up. And then, like, boom, there's the answer. You know, the information comes from somewhere in the back of my head, and it's just like I get all these pictures and language of the answer, and I surprise myself because I know it. I know it's hard to explain and it sounds kooky, but it really is what it is. It's weird. I mean, I enjoy that part because, you know, I'm just as fascinated by anybody as to what's going on and who we are and you know, where we're going. I mean, absolutely.
That's right. You know, I think we've really been waiting for this moment, the internet at this level, to have these kind of conversations, for this moment, for this information to be spread. And I think it's part of the plan, the Starseed plan.
You know, there's a lot of information that people send me that absolutely just doesn't resonate with what I know. But there is a council, and you know, at last count there were over 1,000 star nations that were a part of it. And I don't know the exact number. I think the last number they gave me was 1,300 and something star nations. And it was a place where they would come and they would share information and data about changes, updates, scientific discoveries, interdimensional seepage from higher dimensional realms that were affecting different parts of fifth density and fourth density, and then third density. You know, we ended up getting into the mix here because somebody figured out that about our DNA signature and how unique it is. So that's how we got into the mix. You know, and about the tyranny that shows up 900 years in our future that shows up for them. So, you know, there's a lot that goes on in these things. And yeah, there's been a lot of discussion about that. I've never seen it in action. I've never sat in a meeting. I've only heard about, you know, what goes on there, and that it's very well respected, and that almost anybody can air a grievance in one of these forums, you know. But it's they work together, they discuss things together, they make decisions together, but it's not a body of enforcement, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah. So
individual star nations choose to enforce if they so choose, but the council itself is not a body of enforcement.
Right. Okay. That's interesting. Thank you, because that's a fascinating thing that you were actually saying before, that you've heard all this stuff, and it's in your cells because 20 years, 30 years, however many years ago, your cells have reproduced, and it's all locked in there.
42 years.
And it's the only thing is that unlocks it is somebody bringing up an idea, and then something will just, it's like you've got a Google kind of thing going on. But it's like a knowledge. You can feel it. It's like you know how to drive a ship. If somebody says, "How do you drive a TRZ?" And it would sort of be like the Trinity in the Matrix, where you go, "Well, I can ride a helicopter now."
Yeah, similar. It's very similar. For almost 50 years, I've engaged in telepathic communication. I think that's mostly what it is. The mind is just a sponge, and its ability to retain information is remarkable. It's beyond anything we can imagine. It's got to be one of the biggest hard drives that we couldn't even create, because it not only stores data, but it stores it holographically, and it merges it all together. And even though we don't understand it, our soul does, and it's almost like it imprints the soul with the data, or the soul has the data already, and it imprints the physical body. And it's just there. It's just there. I remember the one time I was able to fly Morenae's ship. He had to have his hand on my shoulder, and it was sitting right here. And at one point he took his hand, he just lifted it, and the ship began to wobble crazily like this, because I wasn't calm. My mind wasn't calm, and that's how they operate their craft, is simply with their mind. So the minute he took and I was calm in the beginning, we're just, very steady, and then he lifted his hand and it just started to go like this because I wasn't calm. I began to panic, and the ship was at that point a full extension of me. And then he put his hand back on here, and he just smiled, and he goes, "You're not ready."
Yeah, because we're used to using things outside of our bodies. Are we? To drive a car, you have your hand on the steering wheel, or the joystick, or the blah, blah, blah. My mind is not made of anything. I can't feel my muscles. It's like it's the feedback. Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? It's the feedback.
Yes. Yeah, we're so ingrained in third density where we get that physical feedback, that we just feel a reaction to our actions, where in the higher dimensions it's really not like that. It's different. It's just lighter. It's just lighter. You feel bigger, you feel stronger, you feel calmer. It's a level of freedom there just are no words to explain in our language. There's just not enough words or adjectives to describe it. And it's been frustrating, for a long, long time to try to express it. And I haven't, in my opinion, adequately expressed it at all, because I don't have the words.
You're coming up to, it's about 1:15 your time, is that correct?
Up here.
Good. I think this has been a fantastic thing. We've had a solid thing. What do you think, James?
It's been perfect. Yeah, there's not been any problems on the webinar side at all. It's worked perfectly. And
all right. So thank you, boys. Thank you guys very much.